Good day and welcome to this video that Outsider Genie is producing to help you to find winners and pick outsiders. Now I've got this document which I'm going to utilize in talking to you about finding winners and outsiders. Now I drew up this document 2 years ago and I say to it I called it PUNT to win, not punt to lose. So let me introduce myself. My name is Otto. I'm now 60 years old, and I've been involved in racing since I was 13 years old when I attended my very first race meeting at the old Gosforth Park. I've compiled this guide using my experience over the years to assist you in punting to win, not punting to lose. Now, this is a subject that I've now discussed, and I did make a video about that, but just for the sake of this, you have to have the right tools, and it's very important that you punt to win. You need the correct tools, and the most important tool is your race card. You have to need a proper race card with enough useful information to be able to make an informed decision. My preference race card is the Computaform, which I've been using since I was 13 years old. You can't make an informed decision by using the newspaper or the free tab sheet. Guys, I really, to my amazement, I get to the tote or something for some other reason. Here's the guy on the tab sheet or punting out of the citizen newspaper or whatever form guide you have. And I can tell you now, categorically, the best form guide that you can use is the Computaform. Because the Computaform gives you information that no other race card gives you. Important information, which when we carry on now, you will see how important that is, that information. And you need that information to make an informed decision whether a horse has got a chance or haven't got a chance. Yes, I don't always get it right, but I think I get it right more often than other people. I would think, I think my strike rates are between 50 and 60% on a race day. The other day I gave 4 out of 8 winners. On Turf One Day, the other day, I had 6 out of 10 winners. So, that should speak volumes. Now, the Computaform is online, it's free, you don't have to pay for it. So how do we use the Computaform to our advantage? Now guys, this video is going about finding winners and outsiders, so it is compatible to both things, finding a winner and finding an outsider. For a person that have never used the Computaform before, all the information can be a bit overwhelming. Therefore, you need to get hold of the other video if you don't know Computaform, where I explain how to use Computaform. But there are some of the information, or here are some of the information that you can use to your advantage. When I look at a race card, one of the first things I look at is the last 400 meters to finish. That, to my mind, is one of the key factors to determine if a horse is fit or not. Even if a horse finishes, for instance, in 8th place, but has the fastest second or third 400 to finish, you need to consider that horse, especially if the horse has done it the last 3 or 4 times. Many of my outsiders I select on this basis, and I've come to realize that not many persons, and even some preventers, take that in account when making their selections. Now, I've got the card here that I used on Wednesday for Gravel when I tipped the first 4 winners. Now, as I say, what I look at is horses that finish 400 to finish. Let me just go back here to, I think race 1 is a good example. I'm just trying to find a nice horse that run 400 to finish, and got a few of them. Just give me a minute here. Now here is an example that I can use. Let's use Freedom's Fire. This horse won, and I tipped it as my best bet of the day. Freedom's Fire, and it won at, I think, 4-1, if I wasn't mistaken. Freedom's Fire 72. Now, here's an example of what I've just told you now. Look at this. This horse finished 23.7. That was over 1,000 meters. Now, guys, under 24 seconds is not bad. Between 23 and 24 is relatively good, 400 to finish. Under 23 seconds is above average. And if you can find a horse that can finish under 22 seconds, like 22.8, 20.9, put the money. Because the fact that a horse finishes today shows that he is getting fitter. Yes, there are horses who goes to the front and they they keep on running. But in most cases, the horses that runs 400 to finish in decent times is the horses that normally I would say between 60 and 70% of the time is the horse that wins the race. That is definitely a fact. So for you to, that is what you should look at the last 400 meters to finish. And that is, for me, one of the best indicators that I use, because that is, you'll see often when I do my selections on the video, I talk constantly. Look at this: 400, third fastest 400, second fastest 400, because that is where I pick up the horse that is going to run on, the horse that's going to come from behind. And yeah, that's another factor that we will discuss perhaps. Okay, then the second most important aspect you need to look at is the quality of the field. In the top left-hand corner of the Computaform shows the class of the race. Compare that to the class the horse was running before, and important, compare the average merit rating of the race to the average merit rating the horse has completed against 4. Now, again, on Wednesday, I tipped this horse 10-1. Where is this horse now? Cool Runnings. Now, Cool Runnings, if you have a look here, Cool Runnings was running in a Class D, average merit rating 69. Okay. Here, this horse has run in C division after his maiden. And I can tell you, it's not often that maidens runs in C divisions and B division after they're winning their maiden. After his maiden, he ran in a 78, a 78, and a 75. And I just felt, when a horse, in my mind, wins his very first race, he's got ability. That is a definite, because I think not a lot of horses today can win races, their first races. So if a horse do, then surely he's got ability. Then what you want to do is the following. You want to compare I also want to show you this example here. This is a very nice example, Marizan, which I also tipped to win. Now, Marizan is running here in a Class C, average merit rating 74. Now, if you have a look here, the way you want to go is here. You want to have a look here. Sorry, guys, just give me a second. At this column here, AR, ability, average race, the average rating. That was the average rating Merit ratings of the horses that ran in that field. Now here she is running, she was running in ARs 88, 87, 87, 98, 100, and she was finishing not too far behind 0.05, 3.5 through live, a pretty young thing. That was like a future. It was an AR 100, 83, 81, 79. Okay. Yes, she had a deep draw 11 on the poly. 85. Eden Garden Blitz did win again after that. I think it won twice after that. And then last time at 88. So she was now running in those. Yes, she's now running in a Class C average rating of 74 from a good draw. From a good draw. And getting minus 2.5. And she won, and her betting was Marizon was, yeah, she was punted in from 9-2 to 28-10. She won by 4 lengths. So that is the importance of looking at the average race, because now we've got 2 factors that I've told you before. And here we are, somewhere while we're on that subject. Look here, 22.9 behind Celebration Rock in 87. There she was last time out, finishing 23.9. 124 seconds, run on well late. And that was why she was my, well, there was some of the reasons why I selected her. Obviously, the 2.5 also played a very huge factor in selecting her as my winner. Remember, guys, you will not always find outsiders in all the races. So what I normally do is first of all, I pick the winner, the horse that I think will win the race. Then I look between the outsiders. When you look at a betting, obviously you can see this is outsiders. I try and find the best 2 outsiders that I'm going to tip. But when I do my initial assessment, when I go through the race the first time, and I see a horse, and even if this horse is 33-1, and I like what I see in terms of some of the things I've just showed you now, then that definitely plays a role in my decision making. I'm going to stay with Marizan because there's another thing that we're going to touch just on it now. Now, it says here, it's very important to find horses that are down in class. It sometimes amazes me when bookmakers price up and there's a decent price available on a horse that is down in class. I've punted many horses on that basis and often at good prices. Now, this is an example that happened, I think it was last year, March 2019, March somewhere. At race 5 tournament in the 30th of March 2019. When a horse with the name Van Halen, I'm sure you all know Van Halen, was down in class. He was the only Group 1 winner in the field. He campaigned in Cape Town against far stronger competition he was meeting at that stage, and sometimes over distance that I personally deemed too far for him. On this particular day, he was running at a distance that suited him, and he was priced up at 50-1. He duly won the race very easy. He won the race very easily. Now, another further important factor is to look at the course and distance indicator, especially if the horse had a few runs on course and distance and unbeaten, or often win or place on the course and distance. And here again, I want to refer to my assessment of Marizan. This was also one of the things that I looked at. This horse was distance, 5 runs, 2 wins and a second, 3 out of 5. And then course and distance, 3 runs, 2 wins and a second. And the distance category, 5 runs, 2 wins, 1 second. And the Class C, she's run in Class C 3 times, winning 1 race. That is important information. For you who don't know, here is the distance and class indicator. This is the distance in Class DC. 1300 to 1500 meters. That is the class indicator, DC, distance class. Okay. So the information that you use, that you get here, is very, very important. I also said that in my preview when I did the video about how to read Computaform. This information is also very important, and also one of the things that I look first. So as you can see, she ran in a poly 6 races, 2 wins, 3. She was involved in a finish in the first 3, 4 out of 6. That is very, very good. Okay, so that is so now we've already have given you 3 factors that you look at. You look at the 400 to finish, like there, 22.9.1 on 8th of December. You look at the average race, and you look at the course and distance indicator. Another aspect you can look at is indicator is how many rides the jockey has had on the horse before and how many times he has won on place. It's a known fact that some horses have a better affinity with certain horses. Therefore, look out for successful horse and jockey combinations. Well, here you can see this jockey has ridden this horse twice for a second. But there are examples where jockeys has ridden the horse a few times and won with them. Here we got a nice one. Jockey and horse, Kennedy, 3 runs, 2 wins and a second. So to me, that is also very important. Elusive Current ran second in this race. And here you can see, course 2 runs, 1 win, course and distance 2 runs, 1 win. Still a young horse. I think this horse will improve, and I think it ran a very good race to run second to that, to Marizan. Then handicapping, guys. One of the things about horse racing that most people don't know much or nothing about is handicapping. And I speak from experience. I found 80 to 90% of the time the handicappers get it right. Sometimes, to my amazement, presenters and tipsters will tell you in a handicap, horse A will battle to win against horse B, as horse B is a 5-time winner and horse A is a 1-time winner. In a handicap, the amount of wins a horse has had have no bearing on the result. Guys, this is very, very important. When you hear a commentator say that, please switch off. Do not listen to that presenter, because he's got no cooking clue what he talks about. In a handicap, it means that if the handicapper gets his ratings correct, all horses should dead hit on the line. That is a handicap. Doesn't matter if you're a 2-time winner, a 3-time winner, and a 4-time winner. If you follow English racing, you will see that often in English races, they have horses, maidens against winners. Now, and that is the way it is, and it's normal. But in South Africa, it is not normal. Here we think if a horse runs in a handicap, but he's still a maiden, he hasn't got a chance. Well, the other day, Michael de Kock entered a horse called Barak in a handicap. It was a maiden. He won the handicap, plus he won 2 other races. He won 3 races in a row. He never won a maiden. Because the handicapper gives each horse a rating, a merit rating. It's called a merit rating, which after each race are assessed up and down or stays the same. And that's why it's always often when you get to maiden plates, it is good to have a look at the ratings. Let's just go back here to race 1, this horse that I tipped here. I tipped in this race, I tipped Ziva La Winter. Now, if you look here, Ziva La Winter was in this maiden plate the best handicap, but they backseat the light to be the favorite. Silver Palace was fourth, I think. He was the third. Now, you must now be very careful to just not to go blindly for the best handicap in a maiden. Because sometimes they, remember, a horse only gets his racing after he's had 2 runs. So you might have in a maiden plate horses that has only had 1 run or only had 2 runs, who hasn't got a rating, but you can see in the form is better as the best weighted maiden in that race. But if you can find a race where all the maidens have been rated, there's not one that has not been rated. The chances, I would think, is 70%, depending on the distance and a few other factors, but 70% that the best weighted maiden will win the race. I knew a guy from, I met in the rooms when we were still playing in the rooms. I was playing in Bosman Street in Pretoria. He only backed on maiden races. That's all. Never a handicap. Because remember, in a handicap, each horse is supposed to finish in a dead heat. But not in a maiden plate, because they carry level weights. And his name was Roy. Roy just backed favorites in a maiden plate. And he will only punt 2 or 3 horses a day. I'll speak about that just now. Only 2 or 3 horses. And he will go home a winner every day. He will go home a winner. Because he finds the maidens with the best form, and he backs that. Because you don't need to handicap that. And I can tell you now, as I said here, very few people know about the handicap. Now today in this video, I haven't got the time to teach you handicapping. But if you go and Google the rules of horse racing handicap, you will improve your knowledge, because you must do your own handicapping as well. And remember, in novice plates and graduation plates, they also you need to do handicapping. And you when you do in a plate race, I think they had a plate race here today. Let me just quickly have a look here. Let me look at Fairview. So I'm just finding, I know they had a plate race here at Fairview today. I'm just trying to find it. Yeah, here we've got a Pinnacle Stakes. Now, in a Pinnacle Stakes and a novice plate, graduation plate, I see they've got this new nonsense in KwaZulu-Natal about this new graduation and novice plates, but I'm not interested in that. In the real world, they carry fixed weights. Now, in this race, the best handicap is Sailing Ship, Dawnbreaker, American Landing, and Rock Alone. I always look at that. In a stakes race, I always look at that. But now, when you work out, this has already been done in this race. Now, I'm not sure if there's I don't think there's any 3-year-olds. But when you want to do handicapping in a maiden, in a plate, and you want to do it yourself and you don't want to work on a base weighted, you must remember that you need to take the weight for age in play. For instance, if you've got a 4-year-old with a rating of 80 and you've got a 3-year-old with a rating of 80, then you need to take off 7 kilograms, which is 14 points. So if the 3-year-old has got a rating of 80, you need to take off 14 points. So his rating is actually 66. Because in a plate, like a Pinnacle and novice graduation, they do not take the age in contention. You have to do that. That is what we call a handicap. You need to work it out. Now, if it was a 4-year-old against a 5-year-old, you'll see there's no difference there. So let me repeat. Let's say you've got 2 horses in a race. The one is a 4-year-old and the one is a 3-year-old. The 4-year-old has got a merit rating of 80. It says here merit rating of 80, of let's say 100. Let's say they got a merit rating of 100, and the 3-year-old also have a merit rating of 100. Then for the 3-year-old, you need to deduct 14 points. You will see that this weight for age, as the horses gets older, this changes. Currently, it's 7 kilograms. Within 3 or 5 months, it will only be like 3.5 kilograms. But at that moment, you need to take that in account. And also important in plate races, when you get a jockey -4, -2.5, you need to also take that in account, because that makes a huge difference. You might have a horse, it's a one-time winner, he's carrying like 52, -4, he's got a high rating. The chances that that horse will win is 80%. I've seen it the other day in Cape Town. I can't remember now what was the horse's name. Okay. In handicap races, the amount of races won has got nothing to do with whether a 5-time winner will be the 1-time winner. In theory, they should dead eat in a handicap. What will determine the outcome is various other factors. For instance, the distance, is the horse up or down in class, draw, trainer, jockey, etc. Therefore, in future, when you listen to a tipster and he should come with that story as described above, just shake your head, turn down the volume, ignore the advice, and you'll find the winner yourself. Then this is a very important point that I want to stress. Punting winning horses, not losing horses. One day at Turffontein, many years ago, I think on a Monday, I caught a pick 6 at Bloemfontein. I collected 59,000 rand. Those days there weren't percentages, so I caught it outright 59,000 rand. So I was this big shot. So I went to Turffontein on a Saturday, and here was Michael Roberts, was riding a horse, Mr. Classic was the horse's name, who ran 6 second places in a row and looked a certainty. It was the first day that I picked 6. I made the horse a banker in my pick 6, and because I got money which I won on a Monday in Bloemfontein, I paid this 8,000 rand pick 6 again, no percentage available at that time. I wanted to cover my investment in a pick 6 in case it loses, never thinking I could go out in the first leg. Therefore, I took a bet, 8,000 to 10,000 on Mr. Classic. And I was standing watching that race. And at 4 meter, Mr. Classic was cruising. In the 4 meter, he was about 2 inches clear. I was happy and looking to collect. And then all of a sudden, out of the chasing pack, a horse, I'll never forget that name in my life, Rin Tin Tin, ridden by Frikkie Greiling, runs on. A nabbed Mr. Classic on the line. I cannot describe the utter feeling of disappointment, despair, and desperation I felt. My shirt was wet because of perspiration. I had to go to the bathroom to rinse it. While I was there, a guy walked in, an old guy, and asked what was wrong. I informed him what had happened, and he gave me this advice, which to this day I still follow. You don't follow a horse till it wins. Follow it till it loses. The advice in this case is when you see a horse that has run places in its last 4 starts, 4 or more, especially second places, stay away. Rather find another race to punt. As horses like that will win one day. The bookmakers love them. They price them up as favorites. And the punter follows. So eventually after 6 or so races running places, finally the horse wins. Everyone thinks the bookmakers got hurt, but they are not hurt. As they took your money the previous 5 times the horse lost. I used to own a horse. He ran 6 seconds before he finally won a race. The horse was called ATM. And the commentators used to call him the running ATM. I bought him for 10,000 rand on a sale one day. I made a bit of money with running places, made more money when he won, and I then sold him into Mauritius for a handsome amount of money, where he ran also a lot of places and won free races. Guys, and then one of the things that I think, and I'm the first to put up my hand for this, you cannot win on every race. You should decide which races you are going to play. Here are some pointers. Generally, the maiden plates are a good hunting grounds, as most time there are 4 to 6 horses that has a realistic chance to win, make it easier to select the winner. If they are first timers in the field, rather than don't play that race, as I've discussed before. Avoid small fields. The odds are generally cramped and not good value. There's a saying, the smaller the field, the bigger the upset. The reason for that is because of the small field, sometimes the pace in a race is false, and that can cause the upset. If you can, try and avoid handicaps, which is difficult, as most of your races is handicaps. If you want to play handicap races, look for fields between 8 and 14 horses. Bigger fields make it so much more difficult to win. If you feel that you must have a bet in the bigger fields, go for a favorite. You will be amazed how many times favorites win in big fields, and sometimes at good prices. That is something I can't understand. You will get this race, and I see it in England often, especially in England. They've got this huge amount of horses, and they got like 5 to 1 the field, or maybe one priced up 9 to 2, the rest 5 to 1 and longer. And then I would wonder, which out of all these horses, which one are you going to select? And then at the end of the day, the favorite wins that race. In the higher divisions, your favorites also win more often, as they are proven. Look out for horses that go up in divisions, that have ability, they can be under upgrade. Therefore, don't discard them if they haven't run in that higher division. If they have a claiming apprentice, I'll be more careful. Some people don't like a horse if there's an apprentice on board. Personally, I don't have a problem. They get good schooling at academy, and most of them is very competent. Now, the next subject is informed stables. Watch out for stables that are informed. It's one of the strangest things in racing that when a stable hit even the horses with less of abilities runs well. But other punters also notice that and start to follow the stable, resulting in shorter price runners. The secret is to find the stable when it starts getting informed. I've been in racing for 45 years and never seen a stable out of form, and suddenly the stable is in form. What happens is that the runners start running better, running on at the finish. A sure sign a horse is getting fitter, starting to run places, and that is what you must look out for. Find the stables that were not doing well, and then slowly the horses start placing at good prices, and shortly they will start winning races at good starting odds. Now, a very, very good example is a stable currently, which at one stage couldn't find anything, and that is the Brett Weber stable. He couldn't find winners, but of late, his horses are running better. Yesterday, he ran first and second with 2 horses. I mean, that was massive. That result. He's won with that horse I tipped the other day, Shaba Ranks. That won at 50 to 1. He's got another horse called Plucker. Plucker up. He also won with that. That is a typical example. And then there's the other one. It is. I'm just trying to get the name now. I know it's got like red and white colors. I can see it in front of me. So that is a typical example of a stable coming into form, because no stable can be in form 12 months of the year. It's impossible. Another stable, and I'm saying with the biggest respect, and I'm not knocking the trainer, please don't take it. Is, and I've been sitting here yesterday, and I was looking at the Cox table. It's just like they can't find the winners. Yesterday they had a number of runners, and I think they didn't have one winner. They ran a few places. The other day at Turfontein, they had quite a number of runners. I think out of all of that, they had one winner. But I'm sure the thing will turn, because there was a stage that you could back it. If the cock has a horse, you just back it blindly. And even Sean Terry goes through patches. Sometimes he gets lesser winners, but I see his stable is now picking up again. And yeah, so you need to. And another horse trainer that I see, his stable is now picking up, is Chris Erasmus. He's now one of Quattro Passi. The other day he ran a place of Kurt's Approval and one or two other horses. So Chris Erasmus might be a stable that you want to keep an eye on. When I made this, when I wrote this document, was the Roy Magdalen stable at that stage, but that was now, 2 years ago. The stable was out of form, and the stable started to run places, and a number of winning streaks, having winners virtually every meeting. And here's another guy, Romeo Francis. Romeo is also a type of trainer. His stable goes up and down. Then he can't find anything. And then all of a sudden he starts winning. I remember a few years ago, I had him in the pick six in the last leg. The horse was like 50-1. And he won the race. And also, with him, if he puts Pierce Stratum on, he means business. Him and Pierce Stratum has got a very, very good combination going. The other day he won with the Al Ramanansi. Couldn't win a maiden for like 50 races, then follow up with a second win and nearly fell off my chair. So, this is the kind of guys, and then this is nothing personal. I like Romeo Francis. I think he's a nice guy, but he's stable. Sometimes the horse doesn't run like they should. But if he gets in form, then you need to follow them because you're going to make the money. And then here's advice that I even don't follow myself. I can't just help myself. Stay away from exotics. Any professional punter will tell you they never play exotics, only, as we call it, on the nose, winner place. I'm guilty of that. I love to take the pick six, but it ties your money down and the chance of winning is not good. I know, been there, done that. I also love to play quartets, but again, if I look how many quartets I have won, then I wonder if it's worth it. Yes, I have won big quartets, but that's rather the exception than the rule. Professional punters, they just punt on the nose. And then one of the things I still try to understand, and really I don't know what's the hype about a PA, but again, when it pays at 48,000 Rand, yeah, and what's the chances you're going to catch a 48,000 Rand PA? It ties your money down for 7 races, and in most cases the payout is not worth the punt. Make your selection, play it each way, make the money and go home. With each way, to limit your losses, should you choose horses not win, but run a place, you can still break even. Make a small profit or limit your loss. I'm also guilty. I just punt on the nose for the win. And then sometimes I think how many horses I've played, and if I just played them for a place, I would have still made money. Then patience. One of the most important things in racing is you must have patience. And also I lack that. That is my downfall. I would decide to play a certain horse, for instance, in race 6, but would start to take small bets in earlier race, loses, and then don't have the money for a decent punt on my original selection, which then would win 6 out of 7 times, 6 to 7 out of 10 times. You need to have self-discipline and wait for the right race and the right horse. So making your selection, how do you make your selections? What I do is I read through the card, and it's strange, I sometimes get a feeling for a horse. I will then mark that horse. Once I have read all the races, I will go back to the first race and then start to go through the race using my knowledge and certain pointers, as I discussed above. Now, since you're now working online, you can't do like the blonde and typics out on the screen. So you can't mark your horses on the screen. But keep a piece of paper next to you, write down the race, write down the number of the horses you like in that race so that you can go back to that. Guys, I've learned over the years that sometimes your first selection is always your best selection. And that is, sometimes we change our minds, and yeah, and then sometimes I change my selection and back another horse only to get beaten by the horse I originally selected. You see there, I've just written it. And then one thing I also want to warn against, to overanalyze and dissecting the races. The problem is that you're getting so confused. You don't know if your name is Arthur or Martha. And, these guys, they sit for hours and hours and hours studying the form. I was one of those guys a long time ago. Just now, I just don't have the time for it anymore, and I've realized the deeper I go, the more confused I get. Now, when you do your selections, look at the things that I pointed out to you today. Get certain pointers that you look at and base your decision on that. And you'll be amazed how many times you are right. But now some people, they go to form grids and then they go and re-watch the races. And now if you watch the races often and the horse get boxed or something, you probably can put it in the back of your mind. And when you see that, you'll remember, listen, this horse last time got badly boxed or something like something. But to go and sit and dissect racing and watch the reruns and study the form and all of that, that isn't for me. Now, on the subject of form, I just want to say something about the subject of form while I remember to talk about it. Often, when I look at at certain selections, I'm just going to use this as example, although I didn't even know if the horse ran or not. But I would not just focus on the last 2 or 3 runs. I also focus on earlier form, because there you have to go and look at ability rating. So I look at earlier form. And now and then, I would go to form grids and go in there and just find some earlier form that's not shown in the computer form. But that's the exception, it's not the rule. So on form, you can't just work on what the horse has done in the last 3 or 4 races. You need to go back a little bit later. Make your selections after you study the form. Write them down, stick with them. Yes, you will lose, but you will also be amazed how many times you are right. You cannot be right. You cannot back 9 winners a day. And sometimes the horses that you're going to back is going to lose. Guys, yeah, in conclusion, there's a lot of people now that sits and they've got these programs that they do, and they do selections through numbers and I don't know what, and they got computer racing and all of that. And I can tell you now that it doesn't work, because somebody forgets to tell the horse that. For me, the only thing that I do is by using this document, this thing, and using the information there to make my selections. I don't phone trainers, I don't phone jockeys, I don't phone owners, because that is the surest way that you will lose your money by doing that. And if you are in a group and a guy say he's got this information and he's got that information, ignore it. Because 8 out of 10 times that horse will not arrive. And to wait for the 1 or 2 times it does, it's just not worth the money. Because sometimes I see in this groups, people post, no, that guy says this horse is a certainty. Stable is in. They're on the horse. Man, it's all fake news. Trust yourself. Trust your own ability to select the horses that you want to play. Don't trust other people. And if the horse doesn't win, go back Have a look, see what you missed. And that's the only way that you learn. That's what I do. After the races, when I had a bad day or horse didn't win, I go back and then I see, okay, here I made the miscalculation, or no, I took the wrong way. And then I put it in my mind, in my file of facts here, and I use it later on. Because this is not exact science. There's no formula that you can work on, because there's too many factors that the computer has got no he can't determine that. He can't determine the horse is going to be boxed. He can't determine the jockey and the trainer. Yes, these people, if it's a top jockey, they get plus 10 points, a top trainer plus 10 points, and I use all of that, which is fine. I've done all of that. I've sat hours and hours and hours doing. I also had programs and tried to get selections going by working out a point system where I give the horse a point, a certain point, and then I add on and I deduct, and it never works. And finally, I came to realize that the only tool that works for me is by dissecting, studying the form. That is the only thing that works, to study the form. And as I said before, don't over-analyze. And then, as a conclusion, I want to tell you about these two chaps. They had this horse that couldn't win. And then one day, the trainer let him know, he says he thinks the horse will win today. So they came to the track, they had a punt, everything, and the horse is sitting in midfield, and there's two horses in front of him, and he can't get out. He needs a gap. So eventually the gap goes open between these two horses, but this horse never takes the gap. So after the race, the two despondent owners walked to the trainer and said, listen, just ask the jockey, why didn't he take that gap? So he came back to the trainer and he said, he spoke to the jockey and he asked him, why didn't he take that gap? So he said, no, the jockey said to him, he wanted to take the gap, but that gap was too fast for that horse. So, yeah, that is just something. And then lastly, there's two oaks, the same two oaks. Now they're sitting there, they don't know what to do with the horse. The one says to the other one, okay, I've got a good idea. Let's run away from him. So with that, I conclude my presentation on how to find a winner. I really hope I could help you, and that some of the information, if you utilize that, it will help you to make winning selections. So thank you for watching, and as I always say, break a leg.